Hi Sec 4s, so with 2 months left to your prelims and 4 months left to your O-levels, here are 7 tips to study smart during the June holidays revision period in 2025. And Sec 3s, you can also benefit from this video, although it is catered to the Sec 4s. So if you notice, I also done something in my background. It looks like kind of blurry, right? So if you like this, please tell me in the comments if you like it compared to the old type. Okay, so tip number 1 is to get serious because, like I said, there's only 4 months, and actually depending on when you're watching this, it might be less than 4 months to Bio Paper 3 O-levels already. So yeah, you have no time to slack off, and this June holidays is a crucial period for mugging for Sec 4s. Unlike the WAs, right, you cannot last minute study because WAs is just a few topics. So for those of you who are fast enough at revising, you might still be able to pull it off for those WAs, but you can't do that anymore for prelims because it's the whole range of topics from 1 to 18, the whole syllabus. You must plan in advance. So that leads me to tip number 2, which is to spread out your topics for revising all the way to the start of prelims. So that means, let's say first week of June holidays, you're gonna start revising for prelims. So you will schedule all the topics from 1 to 18 throughout the weeks. Now, I also recommend you have a 1 to 2 week buffer period before the start of prelims. Now, what does that mean? So prelims starts around end of August for most schools. You will have to find out, and I advise that you try to find out from your teachers as early as possible when it is, so you can plan your revision better. You then plan your topics to finish revising 1 to 2 weeks before the actual start. Why? Because based on my experience revising, right, things will always go wrong and you'll always be delayed. So when you push back, if you don't have any buffer time, you will just miss out revising on those last few topics before the prelims. So we are just accounting for that high chance that things will go wrong. Okay, then how to arrange the topics? Please order the topics based on your worst ones to the best ones. So the worst topics should get the most time and most attention. You don't have to put every topic as the same amount of time to get revision. The worst ones, you can give them more time. The better ones, like maybe the first few topics which are easier and shorter, like cells, movement of substance, biomolecules, enzymes, maybe these can all be in the last week. Now, tip number 3 is you can consider making notes just for your worst topics. This is optional though, because making notes does take a lot of time. And for most of you, you will actually not have enough time to make notes. So I know ideally we all want to make notes for every topic, but you can't do that at the expense of truly understanding the topics, then solving all your doubts. You might need to research, Google, or if you're in our tuition, you can ask your TBT tutor. And most importantly, practicing the questions, actually doing questions, learning from the mistakes. So you probably don't have time to make notes for most of you if you haven't already made notes by this time in the Sec 4 year. So I advise that if you want to make notes, do it only for the sake of fixing your content foundation and only for the worst topics. If you didn't already know, TBT has made free notes for O-level Pure Bio. So it's available public, just go to our website. It will also be in our YouTube description below. So you can download these and use them for your revision instead of having to make notes yourself. Okay, I'm also going to give a bonus tip right now. I got a question from one of my students of how should I revise? And I asked her, how are you revising actually? What is your original plan that you were going to do before you asked me? And then she says, oh, I'm going to read the textbook, because there's some topics that I'm not sure of, so I'm going to read the textbook to learn it. They're like, no, don't do that, because we made these notes as a concise reference material so that you know everything that's actually important in the syllabus to know. The textbook has a whole bunch of things that are just side points that, yeah, it's good to know and it helps you to have a full understanding, right? But you don't need to memorize all those points, and you are not going to be tested on all those points. So then comes the problem. How do you know what is actually important to study for in the textbook and what is not? So that's exactly why we made our free notes, because we wanted to make a very concise reference material, and yet it still has all the important things in the syllabus that you will be tested on. So please refer to our free notes instead of referring to the textbook to study. If not, your brain's just going to be like, whoa, I have to study all these things and memorize all these things. Then it will just give up subconsciously and it will throw out most of them. But if you revise just our notes, you'll be like, oh, okay, it's just this small section compared to the whole chunk of information that's in the textbook. And so your brain will actually be like, okay, I think I can do this, compared to if it's the whole textbook, right? Then it will just want to throw out a lot of things. Okay, tip number 4 is to compile the commonly asked questions and then make sure you're really good at them. Grind them, because these are going to be the model answer templates to standard questions. So what does it mean by commonly asked questions? So I think as a student, you have noticed this, that under each topic, right, there are always a few questions that keep coming out. So for example, enzymes, maybe the questions that come out is like, how does increasing temperature affect the rate? And then there's that standard explanation of increased temperature increases kinetic energy, increase the chances of collision between enzyme and substrate molecules, increase the rate that enzyme substrate complexes form, blah, blah, blah. You see, this is a standard answer. And it comes up several times in your worksheets. It can come up in your tests and your prelim papers, and that you're doing practice prelim papers, TYS topical, TYS yearly, it will come up. So we at TBT have done this over years and compiled all the commonly asked questions and we actually put them in notes for our students, and we made the perfect model answers as good as we can with all the keywords so that our students can just get it and then just study it. So for those of you who are not as fortunate to be our student, you can still make this yourself, right? Just go through the assessment books, go through the worksheets that your school gave you, go through the TYS topical. And this is how you'll be able to identify, oh yeah, these are the questions that keep repeating, or we see like related ones that keep repeating. And even if you're not a student, right, I have good news for you. You can have our topics 1 to 6 for free. These are available to the public. If you join our Telegram channel, it should be in our YouTube description below. And we don't know if we're gonna make it free forever, like topic 1 to 6. We might remove it in future, so you better get it now while you can. And it will give you an example of how to compile the commonly asked questions. So the goal of this, right, is for you to study it, become really good at it, grind it, so that when those questions come out inevitably in the tests, in the prelims and in the O-levels, you will be very ready to answer it. And it is a rehearsable kind of question, meaning the answer is always about the same. Even if it's an application question, they tend to just change the context, but the meat of the explanation tends to come from a CAQ. So you still need to grind these to be able to answer the application questions with all the keywords needed. Okay, so this method is studying smart. Instead of just randomly doing a bunch of questions, you are identifying which are the questions that keep coming out, and I'm going to get really good at them. And now tip number 5 is you can do topical practice questions. So if you're really bad at certain topics, which I think all students will face this, some topics you're just weaker in and you're not confident, you can take out a TYS topical assessment book and you can do all those questions. Now, some of your schools will have already kind of forced you all to do it as homework. So if you've already finished all of them, it may not be a good idea to redo because it's not been long enough that you forgot the content. So you wouldn't really be benefiting because you already know the answer. In that case, you can do assessment books. So you can get those standard ones from Popular and you can do topical practice questions. However, please don't go crazy on this. This is only for those very bad topics because your understanding is just horrible. So it's like you're relearning it and then you are testing the basic understanding with these topical questions. But this should not be the bulk of your revision because to prepare you for prelims, we need to move to prelim papers. Oh, and bonus tip, when you're doing the TYS, whether it's the topical TYS or the yearly TYS, right? You will notice that the assessment answer key is absolutely horrible. And like students always complain that, oh, in some years, right, the MCQ answer is a different answer from another year, even though the question is identical. And yeah, it's not good, it's not trustworthy, and it's not going to teach you the right way to answer things. So instead, please check out TBT's model answers for all the TYS. So we painstakingly created as close to model answers that we could ourselves, spammed it full of keywords, and it's free to the public. So it's tinyurl.com/tbttys, and we will try to put that in the description as well. So honestly, y'all should join our Telegram channel because you have all these links like in one place. I also get this question about TYS. Should we practice the yearly TYS at this point in time? And then my answer is, save it for before O-levels. Now you should use the full prelim papers to practice and prepare for prelims because after all, you want a good prelim grade in your report book, right? Then after prelims, the goal is O-level type of questions. So that's when you bring out the yearly TYS. So I prefer to save it for before O-levels because if you do now, then later before O-levels you do again, you might not benefit as much because you kind of remember the answer from practicing recently. Okay, tip number 6 is now we move on to prelim practice papers. And guys, make sure you save a lot of time for this because that is how you grind, that is how you learn based on getting it wrong and then getting the application question wrong, not understanding. But then the more answer keys you see, it will train your thought process to become better and better. And I give you a big hack, your school past prelims are the highest priority or one of the highest priority papers to do. Okay, here's why. Because you would probably notice this yourself, that if you ever did pass papers of your own school, you might have noticed the teachers reuse some questions from previous years. Sometimes they directly copy over the question, and sometimes they copy but they modify. This has happened to me as well when I was in school. I noticed that, it's a modification of an earlier year. So knowing this about school teachers, knowing this about how they plan and set their papers, because to be honest, they don't have all the time to make completely new questions every single time, right? So they do borrow from older years. So that means if you do your school past year prelim papers, you will have an advantage at your prelims if a question is repeated. And most likely, there'll be some kind of repeat question or modification of an older question. And it puts you at an advantage because you already understand it better compared to if you're seeing it for the first time. Okay, and I always get this question. Should we finish all topical revision, then we do prelim papers during June holidays? Okay, and here's a huge trap that many students will fall into. They will say, okay, let me do all my notes first. I make notes for all topics. Then I revise properly. Okay, after I revise properly, let me do topical revision for each chapter properly. Then once I'm done with that, then let me move to full prelim papers. And that is very idealistic. And trust me, I also felt the same temptation to do that because when I was a student, that was my plan as well. Then I realized the hard way is not possible because you just don't have enough time. Okay, so why don't we have enough time? Prelims are in late August, right? That means you have about 2 months. And so if you wait all the way until you finish topical revision for all the chapters, you're just going to run out of time. And then by the time you do, prelims are already here. So you might only be able to do one paper because keep in mind you have other subjects as well, right? You might rush through one paper, you might be able to self-mark and understand a bit of your mistakes here and there, but that's it. You're getting so little practice of real prelim questions, and that puts you at a huge disadvantage. Okay, so my realistic plan is don't wait till you finish all the topics first. Okay, instead, every week, right, from now to prelims, your plan should be each week, maybe 3 topics. I will revise them properly. I will compile the commonly asked questions and grind them. Make sure I know the so-called model answer for each commonly asked question. I might do topical questions if I'm very bad at that concept, and I will do at least one prelim paper that week. So this way you're forcing yourself to get a lot of real prelim question exposure. So do it alongside of your topical revision. Don't stack it all the way at the end because it's not realistic. One more reason that we need exposure to the real prelim questions is that they're honestly weirder than O levels. Like the application questions, the questions that come out are weirder than the O levels. And if you are not exposed to it, when the weird questions come out, you will just be completely bamboozled and you will flop terribly. Okay, also, if you are a TBT student watching this, you have hundreds of prelim papers at your disposal. It's all in our student resources folder. We bought it for you so that you don't have to pay all that money to buy it yourself. And we also recently compiled the 2024 prelim papers by topics. So we have a topical section of prelim questions if you want to do that. I think that will be very helpful for you as well. Okay, here's another common question I get during the June holidays period. Help, there's too many subjects and topics to revise. What do I do? Okay, so that's a very honest question, and that's something that every single student will face. So here's my controversial take, but I think it's also a very realistic and study smart thing to do. You have to choose what you're going to slack off on. If not, life is going to force you to slack off on some things. Perhaps like practicing the questions, and that would severely hurt your grades. So you can do all the making notes you want, all the topical revision you want, memorizing, but if you don't practice enough questions, you won't be able to translate that knowledge into actually scoring the marks. So here are some tips of what you can slack off on during June holidays so that you devote the time you have to the more important priorities. Example, holiday homework. So guys, be smart about it. You know, the teachers usually they throw a huge bunch of holiday homework, right? Then they say, okay, the due date is immediately after June holidays. But if you think about it, will they go through everything at once? Will they ask you to submit everything at once? Like maybe they give you 5 practice papers for one subject, right? They might only go through the first practice paper in the first lesson. So that means the rest of the 4, right, you don't need to do yet. It's technically not due yet. So that's how I also was smart about my holiday homework when I was in school. I would push the later homeworks later, and I'll just do what is most urgent first. And during my holiday, my priority is not the homework. My priority was my revision. Because even if I do the school homework, but if my revision is just a flop, then my prelim grades are going to suffer. So my highest priority is my prelim grades. How do I do that? My own revision. Because I know what I need to fix to be able to take the prelims well. And if the homework helps me, because maybe it's a topic that I need to revise, I need to practice questions, then I'll be happy to do it. But if it doesn't help me, I know in my mind it's a low priority. And so I'll try to slack off on it wherever I can. And okay, I'll give you even something more controversial that if the teachers watch this, they're going to hate me, okay? But what I used to do is that I would even not do homework if it was going to impede me from doing my prelim revision. Because my prelims revision is the most important, right? Like, my prelim grades are going to be on my report book, not the homework grades. So I would sacrifice doing homework if I had too much things. I would just be like, oh, okay. If the teacher says why I didn't do, I'm just going to be like, I had no time. I was revising for prelims. Scold me, then scold me lah. It's okay. My prelims grades are more important than doing the homework. Okay, another thing we can slack off on is making notes. Okay, stop making fancy notes. The handwriting, if it's bad, it's okay. no one's going to mark your notes and say, okay, we're going to give you an A1 in O-levels because your notes are so neat and fancy. So they can just be the main points, as bare bones as possible. And in fact, we're going to link up here to one of our videos where I found the most efficient way to make notes. So go check that out. So in fact, my advice for most people is don't make notes at this point in time. If you're Sec 4, it's too late. Just use our TVT notes. Alright, and before our final tip number 7, I want to give some honorable mentions / bonus tips for our current TVT students who are watching this video. So if your content is bad, if you're our student, we have made crash course clips, which is short clips explaining each important concept under every single topic. So that if your school teacher rushed through the concept, or if you just forgot it because it's so long ago, you can get a reteaching of the concept with proper teaching, good detailed explanations, memory shortcuts, most of the time I also gone through. And you can make it 2 times speed, so it saves your time. Then as you're watching the video, right, take notes as if you're in the lesson. Take notes. And those notes that you take on the notebook, act as you making notes already. So that way you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay, next thing to do if you're our student, please grind the CAQs. You have the CAQ notes, which are basically the answer key for bio. So it's as if you're studying the answer key when you go into the exam. It's such a hack, right? So please study that, grind that, like that should be a very, very high priority. I heard from one of our students, she said she grinded one of the WA topics, CAQs, like 4 times apparently. You don't have to do that, but she did that, and for her WA, she did not bad. It was quite an improvement from previous grades. And for that topic, right, she also scored very high. Then when I looked at her answer, it's like, wow, you see so many tick, 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 because she had grinded the CAQs. She basically studied the model answer, and she put in all those keywords, and then look, easy full marks. Okay, and in fact, the CAQs are so important, right, that we are giving out such huge rewards that honestly, we are like losing money on. Okay, so I give you 2 ways we're doing this. Number 1 is that every single topic CAQ that you finish doing, when you upload in Google Classroom, we count it as 1 homework point. Okay, and when you do your regular homework every week, we also give you a homework point. And at the end of each term, every 4 homework points, you can claim $5. If I'm not wrong, that's the conversion. So 18 topics, that's 18 homework points, right? It's already, how many? 20 something dollars, right? We're just giving you for free, free money for studying what you should already be studying. Because we want to incentivize you. Why? Because our job here, one of my jobs, is to help you actually get the results that you want. The good grades, the A1. So to help facilitate this, I'm incentivizing you to do what you need to do to get an A1. Okay, something else is that every time students refer another student, right, and they join our tuition, you get huge rewards like AirPods Pro, Apple Watch. But you can only get these after you finish the CAQ challenge. That means you've done all the 18 topics before. So why am I putting it behind this like so-called barrier? Because I really want you guys to finish the CAQ challenge, because I know how much it will benefit you. Okay, and then the last tip is compile all your doubts and questions, send to your tutor on WhatsApp, because this is what helped me improve so fast when I had tuition too. When I was a student too, I also spammed my tutor with all my doubts, and it really rapidly fix my content foundation, fix my understanding. Okay, now we're here at the final tip number 7, which is have some fun each day, because it's June holidays. Now, before you say this is lame or this is cliche, right, it actually helps you with mugging. Here's why. So I want you to put the reward or the fun activity at the end of the day, or you can put it in between the days, also fine, but just make sure that there's studying, then the reward, studying, then the reward. So this way you're gonna train your brain to like doing this task, studying, because you're going to get the reward, and you're basically getting yourself kind of addicted to studying. Okay, so personally, I've been grinding speed cubing again. So if you don't know what this is, it's basically solving Rubik's Cube as fast as possible. That's the goal. So when I was in secondary school, right, I think the best I ever got to was averaging around 15 seconds. And now that I've picked it up, I had to kind of get back into it. So I was slower. I think when I started, my average was 19 a few weeks ago. Then now I've managed to go to 14-second average. But my life goal is to average under 10 seconds. So yeah, that's what I'm doing during these June holidays. Okay, and one way to actually have fun each day instead of mugging your whole life away is that you have to study smart. And that's why I'm making these videos. Study smarter, not harder. Okay, I'm going to tell you a short story of somebody I knew. If you're my students, you guys can ask me about this more. I will tell you, but for this, I'm going to hide the person's identity. Okay, so this person I knew during A-levels, and she was very caught up in mugging. So like there were times that I wanted to hang out more with her, but she was like, no, I need to study. Then I was like, okay, fine. you go ahead and study. So I'm pretty sure she was studying more hours than me. But in the end, her A-level results were not very good. Okay, so that was a clear example of someone who is like very obsessed with putting in more hours in studying, but it doesn't necessarily equate to the outcome, the result. So don't be like that. You have to study smart, not hard. And that's actually one of the reasons why I started TBT, because I feel quite bad for you guys that our education system makes you kind of lose your childhood, because your youth is stolen away, it's just mugging, no fun. So TBT helps you study smart, efficiently, to save time, so that you can actually live your life. So thanks so much for watching, guys. So please subscribe if you like this video, and share this with other O-level Pure Bio students, because that's why this whole channel exists, is just to make this group of students' life easier. Yeah, plus it's going to help your friends. So okay, also look at this cool thing. Apparently I figured out we can do this kind of thing. So yes, please do this. Please heart the video, like the video, and subscribe. And also check out this video where I talk about how to get so-called addicted to studying.